And we're live. Hey guys, welcome back to Critical African Thinkers. As you know, this is a place where we examine everything under the microscope of logic to ascertain what is most factual and logically consistent. So today, let's talk about trouble in paradise. Let's talk about the mess that has been Donald Trump's administration from day one. The most recent mess, because there's been a whole lot of messes, if you want to put it that way, from one mess to another, from planes falling off the skies to firing people indiscriminately to having a shouting match with Zelensky and then going back on, saying they're not going to give them weapons anymore, to fighting with allies, and now to essentially be texting war plans in what can amount to a WhatsApp chat. I mean, the level of incompetence that is in Trump's administration is mind blowing. I didn't think it was possible to have this level of incompetence. These are the same people who complained about DEI. These are the people who complained about, oh, DEI is making, and it was always theoretical. It was always theoretical. They never found any evidence that the AI was making people fail at their jobs, right? So Trump has come in with meritocracy. So in his mind, he's employed these people via a meritocratic process. Pete Hegseth and all the other people involved in this mess right now. He employed them via a meritocratic process. But it's been a shit show. So how can Democrats DEI, which is supposed to be, the one that's supposed to be incompetent, how can it be way better than Republican meritocracy? It just shows you that these guys they don't really know what it shows you that these guys are the wholly incompetent to do this job. They are not even qualified in any sense. They have no idea what they're doing. And this is what happens when you employ people who are conspiracy brained. Like, it's stupid people are the ones that usually, they're the ones that usually fall for conspiracy theories easily. And if you look at all Trump speaks, they're all into conspiracy theories. So it is not a surprise that something like this would happen. It's not a surprise that they would be so nonchalant about national security matters. Now, a couple of things, two things. One is the fact that he used a non-secure channel to have this sort of conversation about military operations. Two, you mistakenly added a journalist, not just any journalist, a journalist that is critical of Donald Trump. How the hell could that happen? Now, for this big mess, for this fuck up that happened, instead of them to own up, instead of them to say, okay, this was a huge mess, we've got to do something, we've got to clean house, we've got to do something about this. All they've done is deny, 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 attack. They're attacking the journalist. He didn't put himself there. He doesn't have the capacity to put himself there. He didn't hack into that system. And if he did hack into that system, he showed why you shouldn't be using that system in the first place. So it's all a mess. Anyway, I'm going to be covering the reactions to this so far. You know all the parties involved in this, Tulsi Gabbard, Mike Waltz, and Pete Hegseth, they've been asked questions by the media, by Congress, to try and explain what happened. And it would blow your mind the level of insanity. They have no integrity whatsoever, not one. So let's probably start with the main man himself and see what he says about this whole thing. It's crazy.
I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone?
National Security Advisor Mike Waltz appeared on Fox News in an attempt to explain how he inadvertently included the Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg to a Signal group chat discussing U.S. war plans.
I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then somehow it gets
someone
sucked
sent
in,
you that
it gets sucked in.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat that wasn't on the chat that you thought was
So
on
the
chat?
person that I thought was on there was never on there. It was this
Who
guy.
was that person?
Well, I'm not. Look,
Okay.
Laura, I take responsibility. I built the group.
Despite saying he takes, quote,
So let's explain a few things. You don't know this journalist, but somehow you have his contact saved in your phone. his explanation doesn't make sense. His explanation is that he must have saved a contact that he doesn't know with someone else that he knows. There is no way for him to have gotten this contact by his own admission. He doesn't know this guy. So how could you mistakenly save the contact of someone you don't know, you've never met, you've never had any interactions with? How could you save their contact with someone else that you know? And how could you confuse that? His explanations make no sense. Like everything about Trump. Yeah. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Full responsibility, Waltz continued to disparage The Atlantic and Goldberg's journalistic integrity.
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there, somehow this guy who has lied about the president, gone to just all kinds of lengths to lie and smear the president of the United States, and he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
So now let's agree that this is a conspiracy theory. Let us agree that somehow this wanted to, a conspiracy theory to take down Trump happened or was happening, or however you want to put it. How were they able to hack? I mean, you are in power, for crying out loud. If all the resources for security should be with you, all the leverage to prevent something like this from happening should be with you. You are the highest authority in America right now. How can a lower authority be able to do this? If this guy is a conspiracy theorist and he actually wanted to do this, how could he put himself in that group? How could he hack himself into that group? And if he did, this just shows why you shouldn't be using a non-secure channel for this sort of conversation to begin with. So there is no way that Waltz wants to spin this, that where he comes out reasonable, where he comes out bearing no blame, where he comes out in a sane world, keeping his job. There is no world where this happens. But it's Trump, anything goes. As long as he's able to flatter Trump and lick his balls, and he's going to be fine, which he does.
Goldberg appeared on MSNBC to respond to Waltz's claims.
The simple truth of the matter is, on March 11th, Mike Waltz sent me a message request on Signal, and I accepted it. That's the entire story.
The Atlantic has published what it described as additional messages from the group chat saying, quote, people should see the text in order to reach their own conclusions.
I'm sure everybody out
Yeah, so that's the genius. That's the genius that Trump employed to do a certain job. And he just sent random requests to people that are not supposed to be on that group. No vetting whatsoever, nothing. He just brings them in. This is Trump.
If you want to call it an app that a lot of people use, a lot of people in government use, a lot of people in the media use. And I think I'll ask Mike. Mike is here. Do you want to respond to that, please?
Yes, Mr. President. You asked about lessons. I think there's a lot of journalists in this city who have made big names for themselves, making up lies about this president, whether it's the Russia hoax or making up lies about Gold Star families. And this one in particular, I've never met, don't know, never communicated with, and we are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room. But I'll tell you what, the world owes President Trump a favor. Under Biden, global shipping.
Now, this is a masterclass in deflection. You're asked a question about the mess up that you did, and instead of answering that question, you went straight into assassinating the character of the journalist. But let's say, for example, yes, this journalist has done all these things that you're accusing him of, is a Russian hoax and so on and so forth. So what? How does that relate to what happened? How does that relate to how did he get into that group? And he just pivots to flattering Trump. Oh, this guy has been mean to you. These guys. That wasn't the question. The question is, how did you let this happen? Someone you've never met before, but you somehow were able to add him to a group where you were discussing war plans. They have no integrity. Someone who has integrity would say, no matter what, every other thing is irrelevant. The only relevant thing here is that I made a huge mistake. That's the only thing. Every other thing is irrelevant because this guy did not put himself in that group. If he'd actually hacked the group, then I can say, okay, there's a problem. He wanted to get some information to take down the Trump administration, but he was just chilling on his own and you added him to a group. And now you're asked a question about this. Instead of responding to it, you pivoted to assassinating the character of the person and then flattering Trump. And these are the same people that say Democrats don't answer straight questions. They have never answered a straight question since they got into power. And you're going to see more with Tulsi Gabbard and so on and so forth. They don't answer any straight questions.
Everything was shut down. Pinprick attacks, months between them, our destroyers being fired upon dozens of times. President Trump took decisive action with his national security.
I can't listen to this guy anymore. I can't listen to his nonsense. To share another one. Yep. Okay.
American lives could have been lost. The Houthis had this information and could reposition their defensive systems. So I want to get a little more information about this. Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address it. So
a very simple yes and no question. These are the same people that says Democrats cannot answer what is a woman. They are having their own what is a woman moment right now. Did you participate in a conversation? It's a yes or no. And you're saying you're not able to. This thing is already out in the public. This thing that she's refusing to answer is already out in the public. But come on.
So you're not, are you denying, Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security
Because
Council.
it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
Is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Director Radcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Senator, I was on a signal messaging group.
So you were the John Radcliffe on that chat?
I was.
Thank you.
There was no classified material that was shared in that.
So then if there was no classified material.
Okay, so now she's saying there was no classified material shared. How did she know that there was no classified information shared? Because previously she refused to answer whether or not she was on that group chat. Well, Republicans are consistency like oil and water, so not surprising.
Share it with the committee.
Now, she's also claimed there was no classified information. So if there's no classified information, it's okay to share it with the committee that is asking these questions. But she's refusing. So which is it? which is it?
You can't have it both ways. Exactly. These are important jobs. This is our national security. American lives could have been lost.
And that's what you have. That's what you have. And there's more where she just begins to have amnesia, right? She starts having amnesia about the whole situation. She cannot remember whether she joined the conversation. She cannot remember where she was.
Director Gabbard, you were on this signal text chain in question, correct?
Yes.
As was Mr. Witkoff, the administration's lead negotiator with the Russians, correct?
Yes.
And at the time, Mr. Witkoff was actually in.
So finally, she's acknowledging that she was on this chat. While previously she had said she
Russia during this chat discussion, was he not?
I was not aware of that.
Was he on his personal phone at the time?
I don't know.
Well, it's my understanding that he was indeed in Russia. Director Gabbard, you were also traveling during this discussion, correct?
Yes.
And where were you?
I was traveling through the Asia Pacific region. I don't recall which country I was in at that time.
You don't remember?
Amnesia. Automatic amnesia. For a For an event as spectacular as this, where you were discussing war plans, discussing about hitting Houthis in Yemen, you cannot remember the country you were in at that point in time. It's so frustrating dealing with people like this. It's so frustrating. You see, I don't think you can engage people like this in a logical manner. They are beyond reasoning with. You don't try to reason with them. You don't try to use facts and evidence and logic to get them. It would work because obviously they are impervious to things like that.
Remember the country.
I'd have to go back and look at the schedule.
Director Gabbard, I want to direct your attention again to the text chain where it says, just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. Does that indicate to you that there is about to be a military operation?
Yes.
Director Gabbard, earlier in this hearing, we heard about the DoD's classification standards. I want to now turn my attention to your classification standards. You're the Director of National Intelligence. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence classification guide says, quote, information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing for an attack, end quote, is to be classified as top secret. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Director Gabbard, have the Houthis indicated an ability to shoot down American aircraft?
Yes.
They have in fact done so, haven't they?
Yes.
Including MQ-9 Reapers, haven't they?
That's correct.
And that was one of the systems used in the attack recently that's the subject of this discussion, is it not?
Correct.
Director Gabbard,
So
you were on.
There you go. She said the information was not classified, but according to the guidelines provided by her own department, the department that she's heading, such information is supposed to be classified. So which is it? Which is it? These people are just crazy. Crazy. Okay, I think there's another one. Jeffrey Goldberg. Like, what was these details? No, let me go to Jeffrey Goldberg. Mike Johnson. Okay, let's see what the speaker has to say about this. Every time I see this guy, I see someone who is just performing a humiliation ritual and is unable to, he's unable to say I've had enough. Like, how can you be this? How can you have progressed this far in your political career and don't have a spine? You don't have the backbone. All the Republicans they're all spineless because they know that what Trump is doing is nonsense. They know for a fact. These are not stupid people. They know. And probably behind closed doors, they are going to be saying these things. But for the life of me, they cannot come out in public to say so. It shows a lack of character, a lack of integrity, and a lack of courage. Spineless results.
It was a success. The president has full trust in Mike Waltz, and I do as well, as a former colleague and someone I've known a long time. And so I think this is, it's been overblown, I think, by the media. I think this was a mistake. It was acknowledged as such. I'm certain it will not happen again. We move forward.
When Musk is talking about cutting government waste, is this not waste? All this charade going on now is not costing the US taxpayers money to do all these hearings and investigations and so on and so forth. Not even talking about the risks, the potential risk that this could have had for US servicemen. Is this not crass incompetence? The same thing that they are supposed to be fighting, they are 100% guilty of it, and they're just going to wash it under the rug and say, no, nothing to see here, nothing to see here, because it's all us, right? Shameless, spineless. result. That's what Mike Johnson is.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again. Nobody was texting.
So what is he lying about here? He's lying that he didn't join the chat. Okay, now I think this was before Goldberg revealed the text. Probably they were calling his bluff, thinking he wasn't going to release it, right? And he's saying nobody was texting war plans.
War plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
I'm going to be responsible here and not disclose the things that I read and saw. I will describe them to you. The specific time of a future attack, specific targets, including human targets, meant to be killed in that attack, weapon systems, even weather reports, that the government is I don't know why Hegseth was sharing it with everybody. I mean, the precise detail of, and then a long section on sequencing. This is going to happen. Then that is going to happen. After that happens, this happens. Then that happens, and then we go and find out if it worked. I mean, he can say that it wasn't a war plan, but it was a minute by minute accounting of what was about to happen, organized by CENTCOM, Central Command, which is the military oversight group of the Middle East, the broader Middle East. This is their plan, and he was taking their plan and sharing it with a bunch of civilian leaders. It's interesting because as I'm reading it at 11:44 a.m. on Saturday morning, the 15th, seeing that the Houthis are not going to know about this for another couple of hours.
And you know about it.
Well, and I know about it, and I'm thinking to myself, honestly, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm glad that Mike Waltz didn't invite a Houthi into the group or a Russian spy or an adversary of the United States. But put that aside. I'm reading this and I'm wondering, not only why am I reading this, but why would the Secretary of the Treasury need to know the precise attack sequence of this upcoming operation? Again, I don't want to talk about weapon systems, packages, targets in any specificity because, I'm trying to be, I want to be a responsible person, and I'm more interested in the decision making anyway than I am in the actual technical details of it. But the whole thing is just very flummoxing to me because I haven't seen this kind of unserious behavior before. And, and the Secretary of Defense, all due respect, in that presentation seems like a person who's unserious and is trying to deflect from the fact that he participated in a conversation on an unclassified commercial messaging app that he probably shouldn't have participated in.
So he just described perfectly the Trump administration. Unserious. These guys are unserious. They don't even know what they're doing. So from DEI to DUI. Under DEI, it was theoretical. The harms were theoretical. But right now, under DUI, because these guys look legitimately drunk. They're drunk with power. They're drunk with stupidity. Drunk with ignorance. Right? Under this is what you get. Unserious people. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in another live stream. It's bye for now.